Dear friends, it is a great honor for me to deliver the keynote address at this National Workshop of Christian Unity on Pope Francis and the Dialogue of Human Fraternity. I would like first of all to extend my sincere gratitude to the organizers for inviting me to address you in my capacity as Secretary of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. On behalf of the PCID, I would like to thank you all for your friendship and collaboration with our office. The context in which we meet. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the offensive dubbed Operation Desert Storm by the USA forces against the annexation of Kuwait by Iraq. 2021 also marks 20 years since the terrorist attacks that took place in the USA on September 11, 2001. The Second Gulf War, the 9/11 attacks, and their consequences introduce a plethora of local, regional, and global issues which sadly linger until today. We also meet virtually because of the COVID-19 pandemic has restricted our mobility and has inflicted untold suffering on all. The document Serving a Wounded World in Interreligious Solidarity, a Christian call to reflection and action during COVID-19 and beyond, jointly published by the PCID and the World Council of Churches, notes, I quote, "The parable of the Good Samaritan challenges Christians to think about how to live in a world wounded by the COVID-19 pandemic and by the scourge of religious intolerance, discrimination, racism, economic and ecological injustice, and many other sins." End of the quote. We can also mention here social movements dedicated to fighting systemic racism and inequality and promoting police reform, as well as the recent increase in violence and intimidation against people of East Asian descent in the USA. As we reflect on how our joint efforts as believers can serve others and alleviate suffering, it is important to acknowledge the changing religious landscape in the USA. According to the Pew Research Center, between 2007 and 2014, the Christian share of the population fell from 78.4% to 70.6%, driven mainly by decline among Protestants and Catholics. This decline continues at a rapid pace. In Pew Research Center telephone surveys conducted in 2018 and 2019, 65% of Americans adults describe themselves as Christian, down 12 percentage points over the past decade. Meanwhile, the religiously unaffiliated share of the population, consisting of people who describe their religious identity as atheist, agnostic, or nothing in particular, now stands at 26%, up from 17% in 2009. Along with rapid secularization, we can also observe a gradual emergence of a multi-religious society. The non-Christian faiths, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, other world religions and other faiths have increased from 4.7% to 5.9%. Moreover, heading into the 2020 election season and beyond, an intensifying polarization in politics was revealed. A time of testing of democratic institutions is underway. To these social circumstances, we can also add issues such as immigration, for example, border security and undocumented immigration, economic insecurity, and humanitarian concerns. environment and climate change, ethical problems, healthcare, hunger and food insecurity. This is the context in which we meet as Christians to reflect on our mission today. These changes in context also changes the understanding of mission profoundly. We are confident that the work of God continues, that the Holy Spirit continues to guide the Church, and love of Christ throughout your country is not extinguished. Dear friends, a time of crisis is also a time of intensification of faith. Your work of ecumenism and interreligious dialogue makes you well suited to navigate these complex times of polarization, conflict, and suffering on various levels. In this respect, the words of Pope Paul VI 1964 encyclical letter Ecclesiam Suam are still relevant. I quote, "The Church must enter into dialogue with the world it lives. It has something to say, a message to give, a communication to make." End quote. Moreover, God's very nature is dialogical. Holy Mystery, Father, Son, Word, and Spirit are in eternal relationship, communion, and dialogue, and the mission of the Trinity is to invite humanity to communion. Dialogue and mission says, I quote, "Dialogue is the norm and necessary manner of every form of Christian mission." End quote. Accordingly, mission is an act of dialogue which has a triple task to fulfill. First, a prophetic, the annunciation of God's word as well as the denunciation of systemic injustice that injures human dignity. Second, mission as dialogue is also healing. Sin and evil wound all human persons as well as nature. Violence and hatred are signs of woundedness. Revenge resolves nothing. Therefore, all are in need of healing, the victim, the perpetrator, and our common home. Third, mission as dialogue is also fraternal, breaking down the walls of separation of the us and them, and fostering true brotherhood and sisterhood among peoples and safeguarding creation. This requires creating a new culture, a culture of encounter, supplanting the sectarian impulse, a sense of superiority and demonization. We also meet in an ecumenical context, the National Workshop of Christian Unity. During the ecumenical pilgrimage of Pope Francis to Geneva in 2018, for the 70th anniversary of the founding of the World Council of Churches, he noted, I quote, "Let us see what we can do concretely. So let us ask ourselves what we can do together. In a particular form of service is possible. Why not plan and carry it out together, and thus start to experience a more intense fraternity in the exercise of concrete charity." End quote. So we are also here to find out what we can do together or to renew our ecumenical commitment to a common mission, the ecumenism of mercy, healing humanity filled with conflict, injustice, pain, as well as the earth. The document Christ's Love moves the world to reconciliation and unity, a reflection on the theme of the 11th Assembly of the World Council of Churches 2022 notes, I quote, In the times in which we now live, we will ask of one another, how does a church in whom the love of Christ is pleased to dwell, organize, speak, and act in this season? And how in this moment shall we share together in God's mission of love to the world. End quote. In an attempt to answer these questions in my presentation, I will be focusing on the document Human Fraternity for World Peace and Living Together and Pope Francis's encyclical letter Fratelli Tutti. These documents remind us how important it is for us to become more and more beacons of hope through a triple mission, which is prophetic, healing, and fraternal, to contribute to the formation of a culture of compassion and encounter both in the USA and in other parts of the world. Therefore, let us study these triple tasks one by one: prophetic, healing, and fraternal. First, prophetic dialogue. Ellen F. David, in Biblical Prophecy, Perspectives for Christian Theology, Discipleship, and Ministry, set forth 5 essential elements of the prophetic traditions of the Bible. They are: first, the radical concreteness of prophetic expression, which both engages hearers in particular contexts and make vivid God's engagement with the world. Second, the prophetic demand for moral, economic, and religious integrity in human communities, Israel or the Church, and the recognition that human integrity in these several dimensions is fundamentally related. Third, prophetic participation in the suffering of the vulnerable within the created order and the social order, and prophetic witnessing to the suffering of God. Fourth, the prophets are the trusted friends of God, entrusted with the ministry of protest, prayer, healing, and reconciliation. Fifth, prophetic witness to Israel's God, which is potentially a witness of reconciliation. Stephen Bevans and Roger Schroeder, in Prophetic Dialogue, Reflections on Christian Mission Today, identify 4 characteristics of mission as prophecy. First, speaking forth without words or witness. Always listening, always open, always learning from the peoples among whom it works. The Church witnesses to the truth, the joy, the life-giving power of the gospel. Second, speaking forth with words, proclamation. Christians in mission prophesy the future, God's future. Like Jesus, they explain to one another and to the world, if asked, what the future of the world will be under God's loving providence. Third, speaking against without words, being a contrast community. Christian life goes against the grain. It is not anti-cultural, because a faith rooted in the doctrine of the Incarnation loves the created world, loves people, and recognizes the deep goodness of human culture, living the values of the reign of God as Jesus articulated them in the Sermon on the Mount. Fourth, speaking against in words, speaking truth to power. In accomplishing their prophetic mission, Christians speak out against any form of injustice, against any form of globalization of indifference, and the culture of death. A prime example of prophetic mission that embodies these challenging elements is the document Human Fraternity for World Peace and Living Together. On February 4, 2019, Pope Francis and Grand Imam Ahmad al-Tayyib, after extensive prayer, discussion and collaboration, came together to sign this document. Their meeting coincided with the 800th anniversary of the meeting of St. Francis with the Sultan al-Malik al-Kamil in Egypt in the midst of the crusade in 1219. This document is prophetic because in place of an apparent clash of civilization, it fosters a culture of encounter. In place of tribalism, it promotes fraternity. It begins with the theological affirmation, I quote, "Faith leads a believer to see in the other a brother or sister to be supported and loved. Through faith in God, who has created the universe, creatures and all human beings equal on account of His mercy, believers are called to express this human fraternity by safeguarding creation and the entire universe and supporting all persons, especially the poorest and those most in need." End of quotation. It is clear that here the text refers to the creation story. Humanity descends from one man. With human failure, sin enters into human existence, distorting relationships with God, with oneself, among human persons, and with nature. Cain's killing of Abel manifests rivalry and violence among one's own kin. The breakdown of fraternity and the consequent violence, verbal, physical, and psychological, continue to this day. We Christians believe that Jesus Christ restored fraternity to all people from the relationship of sonship, and He has with the Father as a new way of relating to God in Jesus Christ, that is, as children of the Father. The document on human fraternity pays attention to the joys, sorrows, and problems of our contemporary world. On one hand, it acclaims progress in scientific, technical, and therapeutic fields, as well as the digital era, the mass media, and communications. On the other hand, it exposes today's social ills, poverty, conflict, and suffering as a consequence of the arms race, social injustice, corruption, inequality, moral decline, terrorism, discrimination, extremism, and many other causes. Nevertheless, in this hour of darkness, the document brings a beacon of hope for all humanity by inviting, I quote, "all persons who have faith in God and faith in human fraternity to unite and work together so that it may serve as a guide for future generations to advance a culture of mutual respect in the awareness of great divine grace that makes all human beings brothers and sisters." End quote. Likewise, the encyclical Fratelli Tutti also invites us to place the human person at the center of all political, social, and economic activity. The prophetic voice of the document on human fraternity clearly appears in its message when it identifies the evils that destroy fraternity and invites all to restore universal values. The document speaks like Old Testament prophets or like John the Baptist. First, in the name of God, who has created all human beings equal in rights, duties, and dignity, and who has called them to live together as brothers and sisters. Second, in the name of innocent human life that God has forbidden to kill. Third, in the name of the poor, the destitute, the marginalized, and those most in need. Fourth, in the name of orphans, widows, refugees, and those exiled from their homes and their countries. Fifth, in the name of all victims of wars, persecution, and injustice. Sixth, in the name of the weak, those who live in fear, prisoners of war, those tortured in any part of the world without distinction. Seventh, in the name of peoples who have lost their security, peace, and the possibility of living together, becoming victims of destruction, calamity, and war. 7th, in the name of human fraternity that embraces all human beings, unites them and renders them equal. 9th, in the name of this fraternity torn apart by policies of extremism and division. 10th, in the name of freedom that God has given to all human beings, creating them free and distinguishing them by this gift. 11th, in the name of justice and mercy, the foundations of prosperity and the cornerstones of faith. 11th, in the name of all persons of goodwill in every part of the world. 12th, in the name of God, declared the adoption of a culture of dialogue as the path, mutual cooperation as the code of conduct, reciprocal understanding as the method and standard. The biblical prophets preach repentance and return to God. In the same manner, we can say that the document on human fraternity invites all believers, indeed all non-believers, and all people of goodwill to a serious soul-searching on human fraternity and living together. Fratelli Tutti also speak of a dream of the rebirth of a universal fraternity, universal aspiration to fraternity. Second point, healing. The mission of Dialogue is also a healing mission. The world is replete with stories of wounded humanity and nature. Fratelli Tutti notes that certain trends in the world hinder and shatter the dream of developing universal fraternity. They are a myopic and aggressive nationalism, new forms of cultural colonialism, a throwaway world, lack of respect for universal human rights, conflicts and fears, globalization and progress without a shared roadmap, pandemics and other calamities, an absence of human dignity on the borders, the illusion of communication and forms of subjection and of self-contempt. Therefore, in many parts of the world, there is a need for paths of peace to heal open wounds. It entails breaking the vicious cycle. Violence leads to more violence. Yet sadly, some believe that reconciliation is a sign of weakness, incapable of truly serious dialogue. They are obsessed with taking revenge and destroying the other. For some, the goal of developing the entire human family nowadays sounds like madness. Fratelli Tutti, number 16. Besides, open wounds that were never cured, the offense that were never forgiven needs to be extinguished before it turns into a great blaze. Fratelli Tutti, 243. Forgiveness and healing are central themes in Christianity and in other religions. Repairing fractured relationships ought to involve the active participation of victims, offenders, and members of the community. There is an affinity between justice and forgiveness. Accordingly, there is no peace without justice, no justice without forgiveness. Daniel Philpott mentions 6 dimensions of political injustice or woundedness. First, the violation of victims' basic rights. Second, the assault on human dignity which harm the very person. Death, permanent injury from torture, humiliation, loss of livelihood, the defilement of one's race, ethnicity, religion, nationality or gender, sexual violation, subordination of one's community, the taking of one's land. Third, the victim's ignorance of the source and circumstances of the political injustices that harm them. Fourth, a lack of acknowledgement of the victim's suffering on the part of the members of the community, either through ignorance or indifference. Fifth, the stand-in victory of the perpetrator's political injustice. This injustice leaves behind not only material, psychological, and spiritual harm, but also the unchallenged triumph of the message of disregard for the victim's dignity. 6. A political injustice that not only wounds its victims, but can also recoil back to wound the perpetrator. The evil that injures the soul of the wrongdoer is often manifested in severe psychological damage. To heal these 6 wounds of political injustices and others, we need restorative practices by building institutions dedicated to healing. Fratelli Tutti states that there is an architecture and art of peace 231 that demands the commitment of everyone and challenges us to work tirelessly. In a similar way, on the basis of religious and moral responsibility, the document on human fraternity calls upon all the architects of international policy and world economy, intellectuals, religious figures, artists, and men and women of culture to intervene to stop wars, environmental decay, and moral and cultural decline, and to rediscover the values of peace, justice, beauty, and human identity. If the world is sick, what are the symptoms of its maladies? The document on human fraternity notes that among the most important causes of the crisis of modern world are a desensitized human conscience. There exists both a moral deterioration that influences international action and a weakening of spiritual values and responsibility. It further highlights that all these elements contribute to, I quote, a general feeling of frustration, isolation, and desperation, leading many to fall either into vortex of atheistic, agnostic, or religious extremism, or into blind and fanatic extremism, which ultimately encourage forms of dependency and individual or collective self-destruction. End quote. This document also emphasizes the importance of the role of religions in healing the world as follows. First, a firm conviction that authentic teachings of religions invite us to remain rooted in the values of peace, to defend the values of mutual understanding, human fraternity, and harmonious coexistence. Second, freedom is a right of every person. Each individual enjoys the freedom of belief, thought, expression, and action. Third, justice based on mercy is the path to follow in order to achieve a dignified life of which every human being has a right. Fratelli Tutti says, true love for an oppressor means seeking ways to make him cease his oppression. Fourth, dialogue, understanding, and widespread promotion of a culture of tolerance, acceptance of others, and of living together peacefully would contribute significantly to reducing many economic, social, political, environmental problems that weigh so heavily on a large part of humanity. Fifth, dialogue among believers means coming together in the vast space of spiritual, human, and shared social values, and from there transmitting the highest moral virtue that religions aim for. 6. The protection of places of worship, synagogues, churches and mosques. 7. Terrorism is deplorable and threatens the security of people, but it is not due to religion, even when terrorists instrumentalize it. It is due rather to an accumulation of incorrect interpretation of religious texts and to policies linked to hunger, poverty, injustice, oppression and pride. 8. The concept of citizenship is based on the equality of rights and duties under which all enjoy justice. 9th, good relations between East and West are indisputably necessary for both. 10th, it is an essential requirement to recognize the right of women to education and employment and to recognize their freedom to exercise their own political rights. Efforts must be made to modify those laws that prevent women from fully enjoying their rights. 9th, the protection of the fundamental rights of children. All those practices that violate the dignity and rights of children must be denounced. 12th, the protection of rights of the elderly, the weak, the disabled, and the oppressed. To facilitate and to expedite the healing process, the document requests that these principles be translated into policies, decisions, legislative texts, courses of study, and material to be circulated at all regional, international levels. Furthermore, it encourages schools, universities, and institutions of formation to use its principles as the object of research and reflection. Third point, fraternal dialogue. The mission of dialogue promotes fraternity. Prophetic dialogue and healing sow the seeds for a culture of fraternity. Fraternal dialogue reawakens us to acknowledge, appreciate, and love each other by transcending differences of origin, nationality, color, or religion. A fraternal person feels himself or herself a brother, sister to the sun, the sea, the wind, yet he or she feels even closer to those of his own flesh, especially the poor, the uncared for, and the outcast. Fratelli Tutti 2. Pope Francis in the encyclical Fratelli Tutti takes up and develops some of the great themes raised in the document on human fraternity with his own thoughts. Fratelli Tutti number 5. And presents them as a social encyclical to respond to present-day attempts to eliminate or ignore others. Even though it is written from a Christian conviction, the Pope extends an invitation to dialogue among all people of goodwill. Together with others, the Pope dreams to contribute to the rebirth of a universal aspiration to fraternity. Fratelli Tutti number 8, in place of tribalism. He appeals, I quote, "Let us dream then as a single human family, as fellow travelers sharing the same flesh, as children of the same earth, which is our common home, each of us bringing the richness of his or her beliefs and convictions, each of us with his or her own voice, brothers and sisters all." Let us briefly examine how religions can be at the service of fraternity in our world today. Fratelli Tutti notes that interreligious dialogue does not take place for the sake of diplomacy, consideration, or tolerance. Instead, I quote, "The goal of dialogue is to establish friendship, peace, and harmony, and to share spiritual, moral values and experiences in a spirit of truth and love." Number 271. Thus, the fraternal dialogue has double movements, vertical and horizontal. Vertical dialogue opens the believer to the transcendental truth, which in turn shapes his or her horizontal vision to recognize one another as traveling companions, truly brothers and sisters. Number 274. Thus, love of God and neighbor are interconnected. Fraternal dialogue mirrors the vertical dialogue. While I quote number 277, Fratelli Tutti, others drink from other sources. For us, the wellspring of human dignity and fraternity is in the gospel of Jesus Christ. In this context, interreligious dialogue becomes a dialogue of heart, to encounter with the sacred mystery of the other, to universal communion with the entire human family as a vocation of all. Fratelli Tutti 277. Moreover, this has nothing to do with watering down or concealing our deepest convictions. Fratelli Tutti 282. On the contrary, dialogue flows from our own identity. In the same way, the journey towards Christian unity also embraces, I quote, the duty to offer common witness to the love of God for all people by working together in the service of humanity. Fratelli Tutti, while affirming religious freedom for believers of all religions, condemns the abuse of religion as a legitimizing instrument of political violence. It reminds us that the mission of religious leaders is to be true people of dialogue, to be an artisan of peace by uniting and not dividing, by extinguishing and not holding on to it, by opening paths of dialogue and not by constructing walls. 284. In Fratelli Tutti number 285, which refers to the document on human fraternity, Pope Francis reiterates the appeal for peace, justice and fraternity, which we have already mentioned in Mission of Healing and Reconciliation. The Pope also names Christians St. Francis of Assisi, Blessed Charles de Foucault, Martin Luther King, Desmond Tutu, as well as followers of other religious traditions, Mahatma Gandhi, who have inspired his reflection on human fraternity. Conclusion. The Higher Committee of Human Fraternity has been established to share the message of the document on human fraternity. The United States General Assembly proclaimed 4th February as the International Day of Human Fraternity. Pope Francis himself acknowledges that the document on human fraternity and encyclical Fratelli Tutti have molded his vision and mission. I quote, "The Abu Dhabi one created a concern for fraternity in me. Fratelli Tutti came out, which has given a lot. Both documents must be studied because they go in the same direction. They are seeking fraternity." In-flight press conference from Baghdad. During the recent apostolic journey to Iraq, Pope Francis fostered the triple mission of prophecy, healing and fraternity. I quote from his video message to the people of Iraq. "I come as a pilgrim, as a penitent pilgrim, to implore forgiveness and reconciliation from the Lord after years of war and terrorism, to ask God for the consolation of hearts and the healing of wounds. I come as a pilgrim of peace in search of fraternity, animated by the desire to pray together and to walk together also with brothers and sisters of other religious traditions." End quote. This journey, in spite of risk, clearly manifested the Pope's belief in the need to apply the principles of human fraternity. He is convinced that the antidote of division, hatred, and extremism is human fraternity, which embodies justice, healing, and reconciliation, unity, and mutual respect. Besides, the visit carried a powerful prophetic message to the whole world. Apparent clash of civilization can be overcome by culture of encounter. New tribalism, economic, political, cultural, ethnic, religious, etc. can be remedied by fraternity. Religion is not a part of the problem but part of the solution. In launching the document on human fraternity in Abu Dhabi, Pope Francis already expressed these views. I quote, "There is no alternative. We will either build the future together or there will not be a future." Religions in particular cannot renounce the urgent task of building bridges between peoples and cultures. The time has come when religions should more actively exert themselves with courage and audacity and without pretense to help the human family deepen the capacity for reconciliation, the vision of hope, and the concrete path of peace. End quote. The church is missionary by its very nature, Adventist number 2. It becomes missionary by attending to every context in which it finds itself. In other words, if Christianity is to be meaningful and relevant, it must address the issues affecting its life, church, and the lives of people and nature at all levels, national, regional, global. We are aware of the current context of the USA in particular and the world in general. Fratelli Tutti affirms that, I quote, "Religious classics can prove meaningful in every age," 275. And the Church has a mission to reawaken spiritual energy, Fratelli Tutti 278, of Christians and of others through dialogue to restore human fraternity. In the same way, the World Council of Churches will be reflecting how Christ's love moves the world to reconciliation and unity in 2022. It is also an attempt to respond to the challenges of our times, moved by Christ's love to foster reconciliation, unity in the world. Let me conclude my presentation with the words of Pope Francis. I quote, "2021 is a time that must not be wasted. And it will not be wasted if we can work together with generosity and commitment. In this regard, I am convinced that fraternity is the true cure for the pandemic and many evils that have affected us. Along with vaccines, fraternity and hope are, as it were, the medicine we need in today's world." In quotation. Thank you very much for your patient listening.